Welcome to Real Talk TV. I'm your host, Darryl Buchannan, and this is a friend of mine, your co-host, James Kane. We thank you for coming and looking at the show. And James, what do you have to say, bro?
Well, I just want to say thank you for having me, Darryl. It's an honor to be able to be here and talk about some of the issues that you feel strongly about, and a lot of those I do as well. The first question that I had for you was, what brought about the idea of actually having this show? What do you look to achieve?
My thoughts were, I just felt that the public was misinformed about a lot of the issues, and that the system would put a lot of band-aids on bullet wounds. And I thought if I can give a more in-depth perspective based on the experiences, that the public will be more aware and be able to make more better decisions as far as dealing with public safety issues and things of that nature.
That's
I have a very deep interest in the criminal justice system. I have an interest in the recovery. And I just felt that we're just doing more of the same. And for me, it's like, why are we doing more of the same? And it just seems like, like I said, they're being misinformed. So I come to have this show to bring about people with real experiences to talk about their reality, right? If you're here and you talk about the reality, and you hear it from the horse's mouth as opposed to people who don't have that experiences, or the media machines that are pushing these other narratives that are not true, right? They don't know what it is. They can talk about solitary confinement, but unless you've been in solitary confinement, you really don't know, right? Unless you've really been in the criminal justice system and seen it from the inside of the belly of the beast, you really don't know. So I just thought if we can get a show and that can give this information and supply this information to the public, I thought that would be beautiful.
Certainly. So I understand that this is not only one of your goals, the criminal justice system, but you did want to speak a little bit on recovery, and next month is Recovery Month.
Yes.
And,
next month
is there anything in the community coming about?
Yes, next month is Recovery Month. The celebrations all over the world. We have something going on in Marlboro. There's a woman that does puts up flags and these different things that represent the lives of each person that was lost towards overdose. I'm in recovery. You know, it's been a hard road. I don't understand why you know, the disease of addiction is not looked at as a public health issue up there, like with cancer and everything. And in the beginning, I didn't understand. I didn't think it was until after years and years of dealing with it, I finally understood, like, this is a real disease. This is sort of like cancer or heart failure or whatever you have, but it's not looked at like that. And you know, I was thinking about, you know, the decriminalization. Why we're not doing that? Why we're not looking at what Portugal's done? In Portugal in 2001, they decriminalized everything from weed to the top of the drugs, and they started putting the money that they were making back into programs to help addicts get jobs, to help them to, you know, get to better positions in life. And I was just wondering why we haven't done that. And I'm talking about something that happened like 21 years ago. Portugal's been doing it for 21 years, and why we haven't moved in that direction.
Certainly. And I do believe, as you do, that drugs, alcohol, and other things that the kids are on nowadays, and adults, is driving the actual system itself to stay afloat. Because I know the recidivism rate on paper really falls if you haven't committed a crime after 7, 8 years. But yet, at that point, I see that people are still floundering to try and get jobs. It's almost like after they're off of parole or probation, there is no further help, and you're just kind of floundering out there in the system. I mean, I feel like we should be able to point them people in the right direction to give them the help that they need to try and get the jobs and whatnot that they have. You can't do it on your own inspiration sometimes.
Most definitely. If that's what the system was created, unfortunately, created to do, but unfortunately it's not. You know, like I have a lot of conversations with a lot of friends, people in recovery, you know, just a lot of friends that we talk, and they always say, "Darryl, the system is broken." I hear that mantra all the time. The system is broken. I don't believe the system is broken. I just never believed the system didn't work. I believe it's doing exactly what it was meant to do, what it was created to do. You know, you have men that come. You know, for instance, you're incarcerated, and people are paying their tax dollars, right? The public are paying money, right? Hopefully, 95% of the people that are in are coming out. So people are paying their tax dollars, and they're thinking in their mind that the person that went in is going to get help and come back and return to society as a better person or more healthy, and that's not the truth. I speak about it a lot of time. You can have a nonviolent crime come into the system, and when you leave the system, now you're doing violent crimes. Right, so that's what 95% of the people that are incarcerated are coming back to our communities, and it needs to be more towards rehabilitation as far as punishment. You know what I mean? And it's like it's crazy when you go in there, just the atmosphere. I remember, for years I bounced in and out of the system, and I didn't know why I bounced in and out of the system. I mean, I wanted to do the right thing, and like you said, you just can't do it just on your own will. You need help. You need something in place. Alternatives when you get out, and they tell you, you get on parole, get a job, do this, and come see you, and it's like, here's a guy that just never worked in his life. This guy that has no skills, right? Where is that part?
Yeah, I don't really feel like they're addressing the issues, the real issues at hand as to why did you end up there, what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, everyone's an individual, and we try to lump everybody into this one thing. And it seems like addiction itself, we don't want to call the disease, but not too long ago they actually put it onto the platform of mental illness. Dual diagnosis, I think, is something that we all deal with on a certain level, but they just don't want to talk about the other side, the physical side of it, and how come I'm out there stealing? How come I'm out here ripping and running? And I think there might be a spiritual malady there too that needs to be talked about.
Yes. For me, when I first started, for me, it was my neighborhood. It was really using drugs, joining gangs, drinking, committing crimes. Those were all normal to me. I didn't grow up with that not being normal. I grew up with that being normal. Not just me, just everyone in my community and the communities that I see kids growing up in now. These things are normal. It's abnormal not to do crime. It's abnormal not to do drugs. It's the thinking, the way we were created. It's the same way. It's like, for me, my environment was so destructive and so poisoned that I grew up believing. I couldn't wait to go to jail. I remember I couldn't wait to go to jail because the guy that gets out of jail, all the women are around him. They're looking at him, and he's huge. He's getting all this attention, and he's happy. And I couldn't relate that a guy that that it was a bad thing, jail being a bad thing. When I see him, he has a big smile on his face. Right, but I didn't relate it to him just getting out. Everybody's showing him love, right? So you get your stripes. So I was taught that, and the kids are taught that through the rap music, through the other media outlets. You have these rappers that are talking about it. They're telling the kids that this whole new culture. They're telling the kids that be thugged out, shoot guns, bust your guns, and it's good for that on a video, right? The rapper says that, he says bust gun, he says, go do drive-bys, but then he gets in a $100,000 car and he goes to his mansion, right? But the kid that does that, he gets in back with a police car and he gets faced with a life bid, right? Yeah. We're getting tricked into some information. So I grew up like that. It's more like my environment. I always talk about it all the time. Like if you take an eagle's egg and you take a chicken's egg, right? And they're both opposite birds. Eagles always fly, chickens always low. But if you took both of those eggs and you put them in a chicken coop, and you come back after both those eggs are hatched, and you watch after 6 months, and you watch, you're going to experience an eagle acting like a chicken. He's an eagle. He has all the capability. He's an eagle, but he was raised among the chickens. So he's not going to think he can fly, even when he see other, you know what I mean? So that's the same with me. When it was just so long, I just thought like a chicken. You know what I mean? I was raised in that environment. I just thought like a chicken. I stayed grounded. My life was grounded. And I went into the court system, and it confirmed that I was a chicken, right? Then I go into the penal system, and it confirmed that I was a chicken, right? So I come out, and I keep doing the same thing, revolving.
Well, I also believe that this goes across racial barriers as well. There's all facets of society where moral values are lacking. And as a child and young teens, the lack of father figures, especially in our community, has had a lot to do with it. But I think we're 1 or 2 generations away from what it's like to get up in the morning and see your parents go and do some hard work. they'd rather think the fast dollar, because of what you see on TV and what we're listening to,
Yeah.
is a real issue. And I think for us, to bring our children up in the right way, to try and just decimate that thought process, you know, because it's not something that's going to be easy, because the social media is just flooding them on a constant basis with all of this negativity that they've turned into something of value when it really isn't.
It's turning people into
destroying us.
addicts, man. You know what I mean? You know,
They glorify it.
It's addict. It's addiction, and this media, all that stuff is addiction. For us, the fathers and the people that are there to filter it, where are the adults? What role are the adults? What role are the families? You know, do we push up on our public, our public officials? You know, once we vote them in, do they keep our agendas? You know, once we vote them in, everybody just turns and leaves it, and we just take for granted and think that they're going to do the right thing. But then we get the results, man. You know, like I said, you see the results in the street. And yes, it's a cross culture. It doesn't matter if you're black, white. You know, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Especially for the youth. The youth have created a culture where they have their own language, right? You know, it's like the English language in that culture, they don't even understand because they talk slang. They have their own way of thinking. You know, me and you grew up, if we have a problem, we might put a stick on your shoulder, a stick on my shoulder, and we might have a beef or whatever. But not them. You step on a kid's shoes in the train station, you're liable to get shot.
Yeah.
Right? People, and that's what happened. Now, the information that the elders have, they have all the right because they have the most experience, but it doesn't get transmitted down to the youth because they're scared of them. So there's a gap.
Yeah.
Right? That's where the wisdom comes from. So they don't get it.
Yeah.
They don't get fed that. So they get fed and exchange information among each other, right? And get more poisonous, and they get dangerous. We've created some really dangerous situations, man.
Sure.
I remember being in prison and in the 80s, and I just saw, I said, man, what is going on? Right? By droves, I seen little babies coming in. When I say little babies, they were small, young, and I couldn't imagine these kids were 7, 18. I'm like, they can't be 18 years old. And they're coming in younger at 18 and 17 years old, and they're carrying life sentences.
Yeah.
These are kids that don't even know how to read, write. They're carrying life sentences, and they get in there and they play basketball for 3 years. And because in your mind, I remember when I first went in, I never thought, I could never, I knew they gave life sentences. I knew people, I heard stories of people dying in jail, but it just didn't register in my mind until I sat around someone that was doing it. You know what I mean? And like,
These,
man, he's been here 38 years.
I see that these are some of the discussions that we're going to have to go more in depth with.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've noticed that I see lack of education is something that I think really needs to be addressed. The lack of funding within the poverty-stricken communities. There's plenty of money out there.
There is.
You know, there's certain schools that are getting laptops. Other schools can't even afford books or pencils. Yeah. So the dichotomy of that has to really be addressed, and that leads to the point where you talked about coming out of prison and being able to sustain yourself as a citizen. There's no education. They've taken away the ability to get trades in different schools, and I'm not saying go to jail to get an education, but while you're there, you know, the least that you would think that they could do is try and give you something to work with.
Yeah, but and to believe it, and that's, so you have to believe that that's not what they want.
No.
Right, because it's not happening. You know, you're right, we have enough money, we have enough things that's going on there. If you really want to assist people in changing their lives, coming out and changing their lives, we can really do it. But I just don't believe that's what the system was created for, why it was created, you know what I mean, for me. And for what I see, I just see the recidivism keeps them alive, keeps that system monetarily healthy. Think about it, you know, we started fighting against, they say it was private prisons that were putting the phone system, multi-billion-dollar industry in the prison system. You remember, you have people, most of the people that are in jail, they come from poverty-stricken, you know, communities, and so you go there. If you were standing there, and I'm standing here, you pick up your phone and you call me. You have to call me. It's a collect call, right? You're charging people like crazy money. These people that have no money, you're kind of like extorting their families basically to put money on their commissary. When I get a phone bill, my phone bill doesn't say you called me from Barica. It says I got a call ping from Texas. So I have to pay that. You know what I mean? So and then it's all money, man. And you got soups. Our soups that's 10 cents at the dollar store is $1.10 inside there. It's all about money. So it's really not about trying to change that person who's incarcerated life so when he come out he can be a productive citizen. I don't see it. Here's another part of it. There's a friend of mine that gets out. He did 42 years, right? And he did 42 years for a crime. They said he committed rape. He did rape. He murdered. And for 42 years, his daughter has to be older. She doesn't like him because he thinks he's a rapist. The community doesn't like him. His family abandons him. His life is destroyed. And 42 years later, they say, it wasn't him. He gets exonerated. The system doesn't say thank you, and now they're fighting. So he wouldn't get the money that is earned that he lost.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they're fighting him. So that's the system we're talking about. And I'm not here to bash the system. I'm not here to bash no systems at all. That's not the type of show I wanted to bring on. But I did want to be blatantly honest with what was going on. You know
what we're trying to do here, I believe, is give a voice to the voiceless.
Give a voice to the voiceless.
Yeah, and that's is that one of the platforms we're trying to achieve here?
Most definitely. There's because there's a lot of people that don't have a voice, and they're not heard. You know what I mean? And you can listen to them, but really not heard. That's a lot of people, and politicians and everyone just pays everybody lip service. You know what I mean? If you're really not in the in crowd, you're not going to be heard.
Well, whispering, you know what I'm saying, it's not going to work.
No,
obviously.
you have to get aggressive when dealing with these machines, or the machines that I want to bring out and highlight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was thinking the other day about, like, why are people not involved heavily, like in recovery, right? Recovery touches everybody's life. It touches everybody's life. If you're not an addict, you probably know an addict, someone in your family's addict, it touches, it's just so big that it touches everybody. So you wonder, why is not the community really fighting to make this a public health issue? Why are we not fighting to decriminalize, right? Because when Portugal did, they decriminalized, right? And they started giving drugs in like the regular CVS or whatever. And what it did was it took out that black market. Their overdoses went down because the overdoses were created by this black market who doing all this mixing. So they wasn't mixing. The pharmacies were giving you regular heroin.
Yeah.
So people wasn't dying.
Yeah.
It's the people that are mixing horse trank and fentanyl. Right, so if you can get rid of the black market, you can save lives.
Yeah, the spider web runs deep. You can
save
as far
lives.
as how many people it touches, and I still think there's a pride issue for a lot of families. About coming out. I mean, even to the point where I know for a fact that some obituaries have been doctored when the person is actually OD'd. That's on the family. That's not for me to say, but that could be an educational.
It's the stigma. What happens?
Stigma, exactly.
There's a stigma, right? And we all carry the stigma, right? There's times when I was ashamed of things. I wouldn't come up with certain things. I wouldn't talk about certain things because in society you say certain things and you get labeled as this, and then most of the time you get pushed aside. And I also want to utilize this show to kind of like erase that stigma. Right? And how do you do it? Right? How do you do it? You bring awareness and you make it a public health issue. You get it to a place where it's seen as a disease like cancer, right? And then people can be more compassionate. I mean, you're not going to see a person with cancer and if he relapses on the cancer, just lock him up.
I think that comes back to that education.
You know what I mean?
That education.
You have to educate, and we have to sit around and we have to just have these type of platforms, have these type of shows that are in your face, just tell the truth. And not only that, just bring people, real life people on set with real life experiences to talk about their experiences. Let them be just honest. Don't doctor it. I don't want to doctor it up. I don't want none of that. I want it to be.
We can present some experience, strength, and hope here.
Exactly.
For people that might be struggling out there. And they're there. I mean, they always are. And hopefully they can look for an open hand. Because a lot of times, I mean, for myself, I just needed somebody to come to me with an open hand and some honesty and say, listen, brother, I know you need a little bit of help. I'm here for you.
Exactly.
And enough men and women aren't able to do that for the masses out there that need it. So, you know, we got to put an army together to try and hit the streets and try and help some people out and know that there's a solution, you know, to some of the things that they're going through.
They say it takes a village. There is a thing that's always that thing where it takes a village.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think the public is just so misinformed, right? They're just so misinformed about these issues. You know, the addicts, you know what I mean? The person that's coming out of prison. There's a lot of issues. And, you know, there's another issue, the mental health aspect, right? Yes, and it coincides with our addiction. And so the mental health aspect for me, you know, therapy has been like and I never wanted to go to therapy. I never wanted to go to therapy because the stigma, like I'm crazy, right?
Yes.
So that's how I always had it. So you talking about therapy, I'm like, it's not for me. I'll work the problem out myself. But my best thinking got me in this situation, right? My best thinking, right? So unless I change that thinking, I'm gonna, you know, keep doing some of the same thing. That wasn't, and like I tell people, that wasn't my insanity. They say insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting different results. That wasn't my insanity. My insanity was doing the same thing over and over, knowing what the hell was gonna happen and doing it anyway.
And still doing it.
That was my insanity. So my insanity had reached a whole nother level. So it was a mental health issue. And when I started going into therapy and be open to it, and it got to a place where the reality was I had no other choice, right? It was either get some help, die, or go to jail for life. Go to jail for life. That was just that's where it was for me. You know what I mean? I got to a place where I lost everything.
Well, and I think that was some of the way that we were raised. You know, never surrender, never cry, you know, and never tell anybody that you're hurting inside. You know, and a lot of brothers have died because of that, and sisters, and sisters. Yes, exactly. So you know, just know that there's help out there. You just have to reach out for it, and there's many different places that you can find it.
There is. I was thinking about, you know, one of the shows, hopefully down the line, you know, like I want to do shows like men and childhood sexual abuse, stuff that we don't talk about. These are the difficult conversations. I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was like, he's a great father. He said, Darryl, why don't we do a Father Matters show? We got Fathers Matters to come in and talk about, you know, the father's issues, and you know, daughter, and you can come in and speak with your daughter. I just want to do things that are real.
Yeah.
You know, conversations that are real, and really important. You know what I mean?
And maybe make it a little bit easier that other people can have these conversations over the kitchen table at dinner, and maybe even get the kids to come and sit down for dinner. Because that's, you know what I'm saying? That's an issue that we run into. Yeah.
So that's basically in a nutshell what I'm trying to do with this show. We have a lot of guests that's lined up to come tell their stories in all different walks of life, a variety of walks of life. I'm just looking forward to it, and I'm thankful for the opportunity. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's good. Got anything else you want to say?
I just wanted to thank Darryl for having me on today. I'm looking forward to this journey and to getting the ability to talk and interview some other people along the way. And just keep an eye out for us because we're going to be doing big things here in Marlboro.
Thank you. Again, this is Real Talk TV. I'm Darryl Buchannan. Thank you for coming. I have a couple of books out. You can check them out on Amazon. One's called Gratitude Journal and 1,000 Thugs. Thank you.